Hello, Spider Wayne here, and it is Sunday, October 23rd. Another beautiful day. Gotta take advantage. Yes, sirree, we are going for a ride on the new toy.
I could put out a video and talk for a couple hours and not run out of subjects to talk about for Royal Enfield. Their history is amazing. But I did find one article that was published in August of 2021, a little over a year ago, written by a gentleman by the name of Peter Martin. Could be Martin Peter. Peter Martin. But this came out in August of 2021, and the title of this article is 10 Things Everyone Forgot About Royal Enfield. So let's talk about 10 quick facts that you probably didn't know. Alright, and it goes from 10 down to 1. So number 10, Royal Enfield is the oldest global motorcycle brand in continuous production. It may not be as famous as the likes of Harley or Honda or Kawasaki, but it has been in the motorcycle business for much longer than all these brands. In 1901, Royal Enfield, at the time they were called the Enfield Cycle Company, launched its first ever motorcycle, 1901. Harley Davidson was 1903, so they weren't that far behind, but they were 2 years after Enfield. Honda was 1949. Yamaha, 1955, Kawasaki, 1961. And then everybody knows the Indian motorcycles. They were founded in 1901, but they didn't sell their first unit until 1902. So even Indian motorcycles is a year behind Royal Enfield. Royal Enfield conducts most of its business in India these days. But what many don't know is the company was founded in England. And that I knew. So that was a fact I did know. It was established by a gentleman by the name of Albert Eadie in the late 1890s in Redditch, Worcestershire, after the sauce, in the region of Worcestershire. The town is Redditch. And it was initially a cycle manufacturer, and then it diversified into motorcycle production as of 1901. So after operating in England, though, for over 6 decades, over 60 years, Royal Enfield was forced to shut down in 1967. But they had previously opened and founded a company in India called Enfield of India, and in 1999, Enfield of India started using the Royal Enfield brand name officially. So that's fact number 9. Number 8, Royal Enfield started as a gun manufacturer. Didn't know that. Before Royal Enfield established the new Enfield Cycle Company Limited in 1896, which was 5 years before they started motorcycle production, its main business was firearm production. After getting into motorcycle production, Enfield decided to honor its gun-making history by featuring a cannon in its original logo and using the slogan, "Made like a gun, goes like a bullet." The company also has a long-running model line known as the Bullet. Fact number 7, Royal Enfield built the first superbike in the world. The Honda CB750 was widely considered to be the world's first superbike when it was launched in 1969. But Royal Enfield had produced superbikes more than a decade prior to that. In 1957, so 12 years before the CB750, Royal Enfield introduced 2 motorcycles. One was called the Constellation, the other one was called the Super Meteor. Both of these bikes were powered by 700cc parallel twin engines and were the fastest motorcycles at that time. Fact number 6, the Royal Enfield Bullet is the oldest motorcycle nameplate in continuous production. The Royal Enfield Bullet is their pride and joy. It was introduced in 1931. That's 91 years ago. The Bullet is the longest running motorcycle model and one of the best selling motorcycles in history. The first bullet was developed from the ground up in 1931. It had a 346 cubic centimeter engine. But in 1949, Royal Enfield, or Enfield Cycle Company, implemented a number of changes to bring that bullet up to date at that time. But many of the changes they made in 1949 remain today. So obviously Royal Enfield likes to keep it simple and has that strategy, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And that bike is still selling today. Fact number 5. Royal Enfield motorcycles were used in World War I. World War I. That's 1914 to 1918. That's well over 100 years ago. One of the most popular Royal Enfield bikes used in the war was a sidecar model equipped with a Vickers machine gun. I don't know if I'd want to be shooting a machine gun while sitting in a sidecar. You fast forward to 1939, and Royal Enfield was called upon once again by the British government to develop military motorcycles, and that's for World War II. And they produced a tiny 125cc two-stroke motorcycle that could be dropped by parachute into the war zone. Fact number 4, Indian motorcycles sold badge-engineered Royal Enfields in the U.S. in the 1950s. So that's the Indian motorcycle company that we know. In the early 1950s, Brockhouse Corporation, who held a controlling interest in Indian motorcycles at the time, they decided to stop producing motorcycles in America. Rather, they imported Royal Enfield motorcycles. They painted them red and sold them in the U.S. as Indian motorcycles, so they branded them as Indian. But American motorcycle enthusiasts were not impressed by the badge-engineered Enfields, and the marketing agreement between the two companies ended in 1959. From 1961 on, Royal Enfields were sold in the U.S. under their own name. Fact number 3, Enfield builds bikes for the Indian Army. You got to remember, India is the second most populous country in the world. There's a lot of people there, over 1 billion. So there's a lot of motorcycles over there. After India gained its independence in 1947, the new government decided to buy motorcycles for its army to patrol the borders. And in 1952, the Indian government chose the Royal Enfield Bullet as the most suitable motorcycle for the job, resulting in a partnership that would last for decades. The Indian Army still uses Royal Enfield motorcycles today. Fact number 2. Royal Enfield mass-produced a diesel motorcycle. This thing's awesome, sort of. It was called the Bullet Diesel, and it was also known as the Taurus. But it was a diesel-powered motorcycle that they introduced in the late 1980s. I never heard of this. But instead of the Bullet's gasoline-powered engine, the Taurus was powered by a 325cc diesel engine. It only had a horsepower of 6.5. It could only go to a top speed of maybe 40 miles per hour. But its 200 miles per gallon gas mileage was unmatched. 200 miles per gallon. Oh, wow. Fact number 1. Royal Enfield is one of the fastest growing motorcycle brands in the world. So ever since Royal Enfield set up shop in India, it has been enjoying steady growth. Motorcycle enthusiasts love Royal Enfield bike for their classic looks, and so do I. For their excellent quality and their affordability compared to other big brands. Pricing wise, they're head and shoulders ahead of it. Nobody can compete with their price, at least of the brands we know. The company currently sells motorcycles in over 50 countries around the world and even surpassed Harley-Davidson in total global sales in 2015. I didn't know that. Enfield now exports to its country of origin, the UK, and sells more bikes there than any other manufacturer. I hope some of this information was interesting. This probably went on a little longer than I intended, but until next time, please take care.